Okay, this morning I'm going to tell you some discovery tales from the Sierra Madre and the southern Mexican states of Guerrero and Oaxaca. We're going to start out in the Guerrero Gold Belt, which I'm sure you've all heard of. A little bit of the history of Los Filos, that was Tech, and also a little bit of the early history of Morelos Norte, that was also originally Tech and is now Torex Gold. Now we're going to catch a wave in Acapulco, do a little surfing over to the El Aguila project of gold resources and take a look at their new Switchback discovery. But first we're going to start out in Guerrero. This is drilling at Los Filos, probably hole 500 or 600, something like that, looking northwest towards Media Luna, which was part of the Morelos Reserve. I was project manager and chief geologist from 94 to 99, and over that period we discovered 4 million ounces of gold for $15 million all in, very successful, about $4 an ounce in the ground. I want you to keep in mind here this prospect called Aguila. I want you to keep in mind where that is visually. So here I have a cumulative plot of gold resources in the Guerrero Gold Belt over time, years, and cumulative millions of ounces by my very rough estimate. We started out in the 1920s in the underground mining at Xochipala, followed by underground mining on very high-grade exoskarn, retrograded at Nukai. We're talking maybe 10 to 17 grams. Reported history. But modern exploration did not start until Peñoles came into the region in the late 1980s, and they quickly discovered Bermejal Norte and Sur, and that puts us up to about 4 million ounces. But very important change came in 1992 when the Mexican government changed the mining law, allowing for foreign controlling investment in Mexican mining companies. Soon thereafter, Tech showed up in 94, and again, I was there in 94 to 99. We discovered very quickly over those 5 years the following. I'm not going to explain them all. Nukai, Subida, Aguila, Zona 70, Creston Rojo, Pedregal, the part of Filos, Conchita, and Independencia. And the reason why probably no one here has heard of anything other than Los Filos is simply because we didn't want you to know. Neither did Peñoles. Why didn't we want you to know? Because surrounding Peñoles ground and surrounding our ground, Tech's ground, was the Morelos Reserve. It was held in reserve by the government, and it was going to come up for bid. Why would we tell all of you, my lovely colleagues, what we knew? No one knew anything. Even after we had found it and drilled it all out, everybody thought we had nothing. But that wasn't quite true. So then the bid came up for the Morelos Reserve. They split it into two pieces. The south went to Grupo Mexico. They quickly found Mina Verde and Los Calles, and I actually helped them with that as a consultant. And the north went to Tech, okay? They found El Limon, Los Guajes, moving along. We're running up the gold course, started at Ana Paula. Then we had the expansion of Los Filos by Goldcore, followed by the expansion of Los Limon Guajes by Torex, and finally, the Ana Paula discovery, the main discovery by New Strike. But look here, we're only at 210. And we're at 16 million ounces roughly. We're at 217. There's another 14 million that have been added. So we're averaging about 1 million ounces of new gold resources per year since the late 1980s. That's the definition of an emerging gold belt. And that will probably continue. Okay, what does that look like? We have the Morelos platform carbonates here. Acapulco's down here. Iguala there, Mexico City. Carbonates overlain by siliclastics. We have an accreted island arc terrain with Campo Morado and Rey de Plata VMS deposits. Importantly, it's not a suspect terrain. You've been hearing that for 20 years. But working the Guerrero terrain by myself and Jim Lyons, there's no question. These are accreted offshore island arcs. They're not suspect terrains. Okay, how did these deposits look like along the belt? In sequence, Xochipala, Nukai, Todos Santos, Bermejal Norte Sur, Los Filos, Mina Verde, El Limon, Guajes, Ana Paula, down here in Mochitlan, which is currently on the Osisco ground. And now, with Minaurum Gold, we're actively exploring as well two projects, Biricu, and the largest undrilled stock in the entire Guerrero Belt, which is called Huecos del Destino. How does the geology look like? Very simply, we have two simple types of contacts, either granodiorite against limestone, Morelos Formation. They can be dolomites or calcareous limestones. Or we have the overlying Mescala. The deposit looks a little bit different because of the Mescala. On the examples of the left, we have Nukai, Los Filos, Bermejal. And on the right, examples include Mina Verde, El Limon, and Guajes. And the important difference is simply this. In the examples at the left, we have relatively small volume exoskarns Where they're retrograded, they run high-grade gold. They can be either dominated by serpentine or magnetite, or where we have calcareous carbonates, they can be garnets, such as El Limon. On the right, because we have silica-bearing rocks against carbonates, you have all the ingredients you need to make a calcsilicate. You heat it up, punch a bunch of fluids through it, and you can have long runs of skarn, okay? And that can be dominated by garnet, even where you have dolomites. Okay, I'm not going to go into the complicated. These are codings, a quaternary diagram I made to code exoskarns at Nukai. Complicated. Simple thing is this is prograde, magnetite, serpentine. This is retrograde, hypogene, iron oxides, jasperoid. The only important point here is that you don't have any gold in the prograde. It all comes in the retrograde. Keep that in mind, all right? These are the rocks that do the damage. They range from diorites to granodiorites. You'll hear reports of quartz monzonites in the region. I read it all the time. I've never seen a quartz monzonite in the Guerrero Gold Belt yet. Everything I've seen that looks like a quartz monzonite is simply a potassically altered granodiorite, including you get porphyroblastic case spar late magmatic overgrowths that grow in the matrix, okay? These are the rocks. When they start to get altered, they go to endoskarns of pyroxene and or garnet. Then you see the introduction of K-spar, which correlates with the first introduction of gold. And then you take it further. You whack it with retrograde. This is Filos. This is relic prograde endoskarn. It's been almost entirely destroyed by retrograde clay. Here on the right is from the heart of Filos. It's toothpaste rock. It has a density of about 2. It's clay, calcite, hypogene, iron oxides. This is what the crappy ore looks like in the heart of Los Filos, okay? Other interesting features of intrusions, these are amphibole porphyroblasts. They look like phenocrysts. They are not. You can see here they're tagged along fractures with K-spar or albite alteration. This represents late magmatic fluid flow. This is the fluid flow that made the deposits, okay? Those are clues as to the potential of a stock. When you see that, you're getting close. But the most important intrusions are these very quartz-rich granodiorites. I call them beta quartz-rich granodiorites because of the typical bipyramidal shape, quartzized, if you will. Here it has high temperature stockwork quartz fading, transitional magmatic hydrothermal. It's potassically altered. These rocks show an empirical one-to-one correlation with mineralization in space and time. Importantly, these quartz-rich zones are not fractionates. I believe they represent rapid disequilibrium crystallization out of captured magmatic brines. These brines were supersaturated in silica. They carried metals. They made the deposits. And that little alien pod there contains about 8 perfectly formed quartz, quote-unquote, phenocrysts. Okay, these are the rocks that do the damage. All right, so we figured all that out. What did I know in 95, 94, 95? Here's a schematic I did in 95 to help put it in my mind. Antiformin, the Morelos overlying the Scala formation here. Stock, I have prospects labeled. I even have Filos labeled, but that wasn't a deposit at the time. All it was a little vein of magnetite about that wide with maybe 50, 100 ppb in it. It was garbage. But I put it there as basically an example of a barren exoskarn. We didn't know Filos existed at that point. But I had the prograde retrograde figured out. And more importantly, here are the grades. I had high-grade exoskarns, such as I anticipated at Mina Verde. Low-grade potential bulk tonnage and intrusions that we'd only seen a little bit of. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through how we found Filos, the protracted history. Here's the west stock and the east stock of Nukai. Now it's part of Filos. The west stock, you'll notice, has a lot of color along the contacts, okay? This color represents exoskarns and retrograded exoskarns. You notice a lot of color here. Almost no color around the east stock. Very different, same intrusions, but very different, except this little spot here called Aguila. So we started at the historical Nukai mine. We drilled about 25 holes, 250,000 ounces. Fine, but not great bulk tonnage. We drilled Aguila in 25 holes. We quickly blocked out about 250 to 300,000 ounces. Great, but not a big deposit yet for Tech's interest. So we went to another colorful area. Lots of color, beautiful colors, 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 okay? A complete and utter bust. Now we've drilled 40 holes plus 25, 65 holes. Getting a little worried. Go over to Subida, lots of colors. We hit 100,000 ounces at depth. Narrow, high grade, not of interest to Tech. What are we going to do? Well, I mapped an exoskarn contact here, magnetite, freshest magnetite in the entire Guerrero Gold Belt. Spectacular. Up to maybe 20, 30 meters thick, fresh as a daisy. Maybe we had a chance. Not only that, but so we drilled that. Hit absolutely nothing. 0 out of 5 holes. about half a gram in a 2-meter interval, okay? Now we've drilled hole 69. Whoa, sweating bullets. Now notice this, the highest point magnetic anomaly in the entire Guerrero Gold Belt is right there. Complete and utter bust for those of you who are fascinated by magnetic anomalies. I know you're out there, okay? Didn't work at all. So I decided to move out and do some geologic drilling off on the margins of the anomaly. Uh-oh. There we go. On the margins of the anomaly, where do I go? Hole 70, based on mapping. Okay, more recent mapping than this. This is an old map. I decided to drill under the ridge. We're hoping to hit mineralized exoskarn. That's our target. And I'm going to go on break. I'm going on break. I start the hole, and I say to the guys at Reno, hey, keep an eye on the hole, please. I'm going to go sailing, I'm going to play tennis, whatever. Anyway, and 5 days later, I call up the office and find out Dave realizes the hole was never stopped. So I'm a little panicked. We're at over 300 meters now, and we hit the contact at 70 feet. We had no idea. And guess how much skarn was at the contact? 0. Nada. Not. Okay, project's over. We're all depressed. Get the razor blades out. Going to shut down the project because and this is 900 feet of supposedly barren intrusive, right? We don't have any mineralization in the intrusive. The values come back 2.5 weeks later. We have over 80 meters of 2-gram plus material in intrusive, and it looks like crap. It looks like all the same, excuse my French, it looks like all the junk that we've been drilling that has absolutely nothing. And this has got over 2 grams. We couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. That changed the project. In the next 5 holes, including that one, we discovered 3 separate new deposits, one of which is way down here, Pedregal, okay? 200 another 250,000 ounces. I wanted to keep drilling off to the east. I was told by my boss, no, because we had 2 bad holes right there. I thought it was a really bad idea to stop, but we did stop. Okay, where do I go now? Whoops. I go to 98. 98 holes, oh my God. We're drilling a stockwork, low grade, half gram less. Beautiful, lots of alteration, lots of stockwork veining, low grade. From the top to the bottom, that hole was mineralized, albeit very weakly, sporadically. But all the way from the start to the beginning, I said, man, there's a lot of smoke. I feel like we're very close. That's what I said at the time. Now we're at hole 120. This is getting skinny, guys. Hole 120, wow. Why did I pick that? Okay, well, I picked it. Here's my line mapping, all right? Had a nice high-grade vein here I wanted to drill from in the hanging wall, and I needed to get there. So I needed to put a road to get down into the canyon, and I put it through this mapped area of a little bit of retrograded endoskarn. It had funny little tiny skinny little jasperoidal veinlets in it. I didn't know what that meant exactly. I knew it was retrograde. I personally flagged in that road a switchback, and we opened it up and sampled. We had 26 meters of 1.5 grams. Wow, okay, that's all right. I'll take that. Put a hole in the middle of it. Now I have a choice. Angle to the east or vertical? I don't know. What do I know? Drill it to the east. Why not? What did we hit? 3 to 16 meters ran 12 grams. And the hole continued in ore and bottomed in ore. That was the discovery hole of Filos. But it gets better. I came back 500 some odd holes later, let's say 500 after we drilled the deposit out. I needed to close that off, right? That's an open hole with mineralization. I needed to drill the edge of the ore body. I came back and drilled a vertical hole from the exact same spot 500 holes later, and the entire hole ran less than 1 gram. This is the exact edge of the deposit right there. What were the odds of that? And if I drilled a vertical hole, do you think I would have gone back and drilled an angle hole? I don't think so. Okay. Now, for those of you, again, I know I can see you guys out there, the geophysical fanatics, okay, all you're out there, okay. Now, right, you love those mag anomalies. You hear Torex touting it all the time. All right, there's the big mag anomaly, total bust, absolute bust. Where's Los Filos? Boom. It sits right over the top of the worst magnetic anomaly and the worst surface geochem. Nothing at the surface, barren limestone, not even marble. Okay? Took 120 holes to get into the heart of it. Imagine that. Okay, but we're not done yet. There's Filos. Remember the first slide I said, remember that Aguila? We drilled that at about 25 holes. We're drilling a hole 600 up here. We're right across the canyon. I could throw an apple across into the open pit. We had no idea that that was on the other side of the canyon. Now, coming down to the south, remember the hole I said there was smoke? Well, this is like hole 650 or something. It turns out that's the edge of the deposit right there. We were 35 meters from hole 98 drilling into the deposit. We were that close. Had no idea. You can't see anything at the surface. And the best part is, where I was told not to drill, right? They let me find the deposits, but they didn't want me to keep drilling them. So right on the other side, there are two of the best holes in the history of the project, and the open pit, gold course open pit, started right there, okay? True story. But we're not done. It gets better. Prograde, retrograde. Remember that? All right, retrograde. Gold comes in the retrograde. Empirically, I noticed that the best of the best gold, we're talking plus 10 gram material, occurred right at the interface between the prograde and the retrograde. You could call it a retrograde skarn front, if you like. And that applied to core surface sampling and detail. So I thought, well, okay, let's blow this up and try to find a deposit. Crazy idea, right? Where's the prograde? There it is, barren. There it is, barren. Where does the good retrograde plot out? Retrograde here, retrograde here. Notice the Nukai mine is right in the interface. Huh, coincidence? Nope. So I figured, well, okay, that's, my model's working. Why don't I just go up here and drill this crappy looking outcrop here in the middle of nowhere? Give it a shot. Blind hole, first hole, boom. Right into the heart of a new deposit. Independencia is running over 10 grams. I mean, they've been averaging, they were mining it underground. I'm sure it's got well over 1 million or 2 ounces now. I think last time they said well over 1 million. I thought there was at least 500,000. There's 6 to 8 grams average underground mining grade that gold core was done. Then I went on the other side, right? Worked there, totally covered, nothing at the contacts, alluvium, colluvium, boom, another discovery. Wow. Those are one of the best holes we ever drilled in the history of the project. Okay, how does this look in schematic sections? West stock, quartz-rich granodiorites, exoskarns. Remember, it's dominated by exoskarns, the west stock, Nukai mine, North Conchita. These are schematic, Independencia, Subida. And transitional from the west stock, moving to the east stock, is this cupola mineralization at hole 70 that saved the project. Moving on to the east stock, it looks different. Why? It was earlier, it came into cold rocks, had very little exoskarn. Remember, there's no color here, no exoskarn, practically. And it looks like this. Lots of sills, lots of stacked beta quartz-rich granodiorite, subhorizontal sills, subhorizontal structures, everything's extending. This is an early diorite sill, fractures, breccias, fluids get sucked off like a sponge. And I should point out, everybody talks about Filos, I read it all the time. Los Filos exoskarn. This is skarn. No, it's not a skarn. 80% of the ore in Los Filos is hosted by intrusive rocks. Less than 10% of the ore in Filos is hosted by exoskarns, and they're retrograded exoskarns. It's an intrusion-hosted deposit, about 80%. So don't believe what you read. Aguila, Bermejal, the same thing, a little more exoskarn. Exoskarns here, Cresta and Rojo, you've never heard of that. Lots of mineralization in the east stock, all the way from the top to the bottom, low grade. Okay, detailed cross-section from my logging, diorite sill, extension, diorite sill, sigmoid shape, beta quartz granite, diorite, similar sigmoidal shape, everything's extending, and the fluids go boom, out into the busted up diorite, all right? That's the story of Filos. Okay, now we knew all of this back in 98, 95 to 97, figured it out. Here we are looking southeast, along the Guerrero Gold Belt, Bermejal Pit, Los Filos Pit, Nukai Mine, Los Filos Mine Project. This is the whole thing right here, Los Filos. Okay, so knowing what we knew, what were we going to do next? Well, here we are standing on Media Luna, and I helped start Torex Gold with, I was one of the guys who helped them start that company as the technical guy. And so I did some work here in the field. Media Luna. Why did we like that? Why did we want to get the Morelos Reserve? We knew we wanted it. Why did we want it? Well, it's pretty simple. It had all the great ingredients. Morelos Formation, overlying Muscala, stock. But very importantly, it had something else that was even better than Nukai, what we'd already found. And what was that? Well, back in 94, 1 week when I first got there, I mapped a little prospect called Mina Verde. Morelos in the footwall, Muscala, this is a scan of my map. Muscala on the hanging wall, skarn at the transition between the Morelos and the Muscala, hornfills on the hanging wall. Spectacular gold grades, magnificent gold grades. We've got 1.25 ounces over 2.5 grams. That probably averages 6, 7 to 8 grams here at the surface, never been drilled. It's on the Morelos Norte, but schematically, this is what it represented. Morelos below, Muscala above, transitional Cuautla, okay? And I modeled this back before El Limon had been found. What did I say? Intrusions come up, they run along the contact, they make beautiful skarns with hornfills in the hanging wall. Now look at the next slide. This is probably 10, 15 years later, something like that. Look at what We'll look at what El Limon looks like, Teck's discovery on the Morelos Norte. Well, Morelos below, Hornfels above, in skarn running along exactly the contact with the intrusions. And these grades right here are exactly the same grades, exactly at Mina Verde. So that's why we wanted to bid on the Morelos Norte. It was a no-brainer. So what did we do? How did that bid take place? Well, we had a sealed bid. We're competing against all of you guys. And no, we don't want anybody to know. So the first proposed bid by Teck was $1.75 million. I slammed my fist on the table and I said to Joe Roots, do you really think our competitors are that stupid? So Teck grudgingly bumped it up over $1 million, barely $2.15 million, which to me, to this day, is just absurd. It was a hugely valuable property, and we were going to lose it. Well, we got real lucky because when we sent the money down, Teck, the peso exchange rate changed between Friday and Monday, and that change in devaluation of the peso pushed our bid less than $100,000 above the nearest competitor, who was Grupo Mexico. And if they had won it, Alfonso Martinez would be up here today talking about this, not I. Alfonso, would you like to talk about this? Anyway, are you out there? No, he's not there. Okay, so instead of being ecstatic, the mainstream management in Teck was, in fact, their view was we had already wasted all this money on Filos, wasted, and now we had wasting more on Morelos Reserve. You know, I was speechless. I mean, I guess 4 million ounces wasn't good enough. And now we've got the opportunity to find what's now about 15 million ounces in Torex. They were now Enrique Miranda, who owned it all originally, had 50% of New Kind, 22% of Morelos. He offered to sell his whole holding for $15 million to Teck. And you think this is the cheapest deal bargain basement sale? Teck declines the offer. 2 years later, Enrique Miranda sells the exact same holdings for well over $120 million. Patience is a virtue. So I can't take this anymore, quit. And then those people who said we were wasting money at Filos and Morelos Reserve now claim to have been loving the Guerrero gold belt from day one. It's unbelievable. And for those, that rates a 0 on the truthiness scale, all right? So let's catch a wave, get out of Guerrero, surf on over to the coast of Oaxaca, to where Gold Resource Corporation has their El Aguila project. This is the new Switchback discovery, beautiful high-grade polymetallic vein, gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, gold equivalents from about 4 to 40 ppm, a value they estimate $300 to $900 a ton rock. Great find, just getting into it. How did we get there? All right, I've been working with them for about 15 years. When I went there, they had that old mine called El Aguila, old high-grade underground. This is what it looks like now. It's been mined out. But when I first went there and looked at the core with Bill Reed, and Bill and David Reed, great guys, Colorado, great guys, both geologists. And I made a schematic here saying I thought they had a mantle-like replacement. This is actually from my report, mantle-like replacement near a paleo surface, low confining pressures. Well, they opened up the pit. What do they find? That's it. There's the mantle. It's in pyroclastic rocks. And the paleo surface is actually right there, incredibly close to the surface. But what's the context? Well, the context, we had no idea what the context was. So David and Bill were kind enough to let me do what I thought was important. I went out and mapped a large rhyolite caldera. This is 16 kilometers in diameter crater. Spectacular. Consists of large sections of rhyolite welded tuff, domes, basal search deposits, etc. Typical caldera sequences. And that caldera resurged. Caldera is resurged, domed up. What does that dome look like? Looks like this. Topographically, it's beautiful. It's still preserved. Dome, edge of the caldera. Here's a paleo valley with a paleo surface all through this canyon right here. All right? And a part of that resurgence kept going. Some of it stopped. It busted up. This busted up, continued pushing up like a piston. And look at where Aguila is. It's right on the edge of the piston uplift. Okay, this is what it looks like. Look at all the color in those rocks. Here's the margin of the piston. Look at all the alteration in the volcanic rocks. This is outside of the piston, unaltered volcanic rocks. Okay, day and night, beautiful. Okay, what else do we have in the resurgent margin? Well, we've got a trend of dike swarms, felsic dikes, one of which strikes up this ridge that I'm looking down. Guess where the new Arista discovery was made? Here's the paleo surface right about here. Boom, 120 meters down, totally blind deposit, high-grade polymetallic, gold, silver, lead, zinc, spectacular. Totally blind. I mean, a dike at the surface with a little bit of quartz vein that doesn't really carry anything, all right? Great stuff. All right, But we're not done. There's El Aguila Arista is also located on the edge of the piston. It's not a coincidence. This is when the resurgence came up, the flutes came up, caused mineralization. But we're not done. Another caldera, another ash flow blew up. The whole thing collapsed and was covered by post-mineral tuff. Okay, well now what's under the tuff? The tuff's covering a lot of this district now. So I wanted to map that new tuff. I needed to map out the nested caldera. Old caldera, new caldera. Could I have another pointer, please? Otro, ese ya pierde su. No, está bien. Okay. New tuff, old tuff, caldera margin. Of course, you know, rock in the box people are going to say, well, why do we care about that? Well, you care about it because of this. Here's the base of that younger tuff. Beautiful basal surge deposits right below the tuff flare. Spectacular basal surge. Why do we care? Well, we care because right around the base, we're at the base, and right around the corner is this. It's the switchback. Okay, it's the switchback. What do we have here? Old tuffs, new caldera margin, new tuffs, right? This is all cover. Right below it, we have a resurgent dike. That's the dike just like Arista. What's at the contact of the dike? Boom. Hydrothermal gypsum and minor quartz veins. Does it have any good geochem? No. Do I care? No. I think the gypsum is distal to sulfides of depth. I don't care what the geochem is. It could have 0, it could have ore grade. I don't care. I said, drill here. Took 7 years to drill it because they couldn't get surface access. So finally, they got desperate, and they drilled it from underground, the Arista. They drilled 500 to 700 meter holes horizontal from the lower levels of the mine to get to this target. 3 out of the first 3 holes hit the system. And it's not just a single vein, it's a vein complex. It's called switchback. Okay? In cross-section, it looks like this. Here's the Arista underground. And they drilled, these are all the holes they drilled. And they're finally drifted over into, and they're blocking out reserves as we speak. I should point out that that's not actually a fault there. This is actually a growth fault. This is the barren overlying tuff. This is the post-mineral tuff. So we have blind targets underneath there running all the way up to the switchback outcrop, a little bit off section that way, and then coming towards you 3 kilometers all the way down to the highway, about 3 kilometers. Again, same relationship. Older tuffs, younger tuffs, caldera margin, resurgent structures. What do we have here? Big oxide face, 40 meters wide, sulfidic is all get out. What, you get up close to it, what does it have? It has pebble dikes of mineralized quartz veins. It's never been drilled, so there are going to be more discoveries found both here, and now we're going to catch a wave, and we're going to ride back to Guerrero, where, with Minaurum, we're working on Biricu and Huelcos del Destino. Huelcos del Destino is the largest undrilled stock in the Guerrero Gold Belt, dead ring for Filos. There you go. We're doing what we can. Okay, do's and don'ts. Do build an exploration model from the bottom up, not the top down. Don't obsess over geophysics, geochemistry, or structural models. Sorry, structural geologists. Don't pick the drill holes from an office. Don't do that. Don't drill too deep. Tech missed Media Luna by saving money. They saved 5 million ounces of gold that could have been theirs. Cost them hundreds of millions of dollars by being cheap on the drilling. Believe in your ideas and follow them when they work. Be ready to modify or abandon them when they don't. Okay? Finally, don't be afraid to step out if your property can be killed with a few drill holes. You're drilling in the wrong place to begin with, just in one man's opinion. And finally, when you smell a lot of smoke, there's got to be a fire somewhere. Okay, thank you. Sorry I ran over. I don't have time for questions, but I'd be happy to talk to any of you. I'm over my time, so.